Hello, my name is Savvas Verdis. I'm a senior research fellow at the London School of Economics. And back in October 2012, we were asked by Henk Ovink and the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and the Environment to assess the RAM program. Our methodology was based on existing data that was provided to us by the ministry that included extensive cost-benefit analysis, environmental impact assessments, as well as surveys. Over 2 months, we reviewed around 1,000 pages worth of information, which, not to say the least, was extensive. We compiled a short information base based on this existing research that was handed to us, and that was given to 5 panelists that traveled to Almira in September for a day-long panel assessment. This short introduction gives a summary of our main conclusions. The first conclusion that the panelists reached was based on one of the key questions that was asked of us. That was, to what extent does the RAM program improve the competitiveness of the north wing of the Randstad? The panelists believed that the program was predominantly a housing strategy, and that asking it the question of whether it improves economic competitiveness was a bit misjudged. There was excellent literature and excellent research produced by PBL that specifically looked at what are the economic drivers of competitiveness on the north wing. This is improved research and development, skilling up of the workforce, and improved transport infrastructure. Because we believe that the main component of the RAM plans were based on housing, we felt that the economic competitiveness of the region would be better served by other means. What was also important in this conclusion was to look at the environmental strategy of the Markermeer Lake and whether there is existing evidence, not only in the Netherlands, of whether such approaches improve the competitiveness of firm. And by all means, competitiveness, in the way that we understood it as part of our assessment, was only based on economic competitiveness, i.e. the ability of the North Wing to attract foreign firms. There is no specific evidence that guarantees improved competitiveness of firms based on environmental improvements. That said, there is increasing research from the United States and specifically studies around the Great Lakes, around Michigan, that point to increased quality of life around these environmental improvement projects that attract human capital. But this is as much as we went into this specific question. The second part of the study looked at how the specific transport, housing and environmental aspects of the RAM program would improve the quality of life both in Almira and in the wider Randstad. Here again, we started focusing on the housing program. We saw extensive evidence and research that showed that the types of housing in the 3 proposed sites in Almira meet market demands. For example, we saw extensive evidence that there was a need in the wider metropolitan area of Amsterdam for suburban or low-density houses which are affordable, and specifically for young families that are starting up and are trying to move away from the denser metropolitan area of Amsterdam. Now, of course, there are market demands for these types of housing, but because most of the panelists were UK-based, with the exception of Dieter Lappler, who is a professor in Hamburg, our experience in the UK is that this type of low-density housing does not utilize scarce resources, and specifically land, effectively. So from the outset, we said that the low-density proposals, specifically in Almere Oosterwolde, were not efficient. I believe that this is something that the Almere municipality itself objects to. But thinking that land is not an issue because it can constantly be reclaimed is not an aspect that the panelists agreed on. The third aspect that we looked at was the transport infrastructure. And specifically, we looked at whether the existing transport infrastructure around the Holland Bridge would allow Almere to expand with the 60 or 70,000 new dwellings that are being proposed, or whether a new Almere connection, whether as a bridge or as a tunnel, is needed. Again, the panelists believed that the existing Holland Bridge connection would suffice for Almere to expand from its current urban centers. Although at the time of the research program, Almere was not presented as the winning city for the Floriade, beginning and extending housing from the center and around the Weerwater Lake, basically continuing on the good work that was first begun in 2007 with Rem Koolhaas's work on the north side of the lake, should be continued. And because the Holland Bridge option allows good accessibility to the lake area, this resource should be utilized to its maximum. Furthermore, we thought that in the long run, the option for a new Almere link may be put again into the equation, but that's not something that should be taken into account today. How did we come to this conclusion? All the panelists believed that Almere should expand from its current urban centers. Rather than expanding through low densities in Almere Oosterwolde, and also in Almere Pampas, which relies on the success of the Eiburg 2 development across the water, why not start densifying around the Weerwater Lake? There are many opportunities. Densifying this existing center and making the most of what is already an excellent north side development would, in the long run, improve the pricing of land in Almere Pampas. So basically you're winning time by expanding the current center, and when market demands pick up around the Amsterdam metropolitan area, the Pampas area could be released for development, but not at this stage. To conclude this statement, we believe that there is a very long-term case for what Almere proposes in the second link across the Almere. This is based on the assumption and the future potential of the triangle between Utrecht, Almere and Amsterdam to become a viable urban agglomeration. In this scenario, there is a case for Almere to start planning in the long run for a second Almere link. This would allow high-density business as well as residential development in the Pampas area to be connected on a metropolitan scale to Amsterdam. The panelists believe that there is a case for a western metropolitan connection via a new metro link across the Almere for commuting trips back and forth between Amsterdam and Almere. Of course, after the development of Eiburg 2 is completed. This would then allow the Western Holland Bridge option to remain for more regional traffic, connecting Lelystad Airport, for example, to Schiphol Airport, but also to take vehicular regional traffic on the roads to the western side. However, these are very long-term plans that the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure should not concentrate at the moment. We'd finally like to say that our experience in Holland was eye-opening. We are not very accustomed in the UK to plan ahead to 2030 or 2040. We also believe that this is partly why there are certain tensions between local and central government. That when one starts planning so far ahead and questions around major transport infrastructure with huge budgets comes into the equation and sometimes into conflict. At the LSE Cities program, we're open to take any of your future questions on our study, which is extensive and which is published online. You can also email me directly on s.verdis@lse.ac.uk.